Viewer discretion advised.
Okay, how about now? A little mic check here. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me. Okay, looks like we are good to go now. Good morning, Z Horde family. Weird Wednesday here, hump day. We made it almost through another one, all downhill from here into Friday and the weekend. How's everybody doing this morning? Cold here in Portland, Oregon, 36 chilly degrees. Might get some frost on the pumpkins if you go out there this morning in the Pacific Northwest, anyway. Looking forward to a high of 57 today. Partly sunny, maybe right now. Looking out my color weather window in my studio, it's dark. It's not daylight here on the West Coast yet, but coming soon. Glad to have everybody here today. Let's take a roll call and see who we've got in the house so far. Unicorp's Tales, Tanya Jones. How are you, Tanya? Thank you for showing up this morning, all the way from the UK. Let's see. We've got Dezombified, of course. I'm in the chat, 13 past midnight. That's also me, Steve Stockton. And we've got Journey Through the Gate, Paranormal Portal Podcast. Cisco, how are you doing? She's still working on her coffee there. And we've got Dolly Huladal Reynolds Dulce. How are you this morning? Never caught one of our live streams before. Well, welcome in. We have a lot of fun here. Get a little wacky, goofy. Things are a little wild and loose sometimes on the morning show, but we have a good time. But welcome in just the same. We've got anybody else here? Sean G, Chasing the Truth. How are you doing, Sean? Good to have you with us this morning. Take time, let a few more people filtered in here. RB, good morning. How are you? Thank you for joining us today. Hula Doll says she's in Florida. It's going to be in the 90s there today. I lived in Florida for 3 years, and I don't really miss that hot weather. And I don't know, especially around the holidays, it just didn't seem right. People would put Christmas lights on their palmetto trees, and Santa would come into town on a surfboard wearing Bermuda shorts. And I'm like, I'm more of a traditionalist when it comes to things like that. But anyway, thanks everybody for being with us. Go ahead and bring my guest in this morning. We have come back for her second visit on the show, weird writer Heather Mosier. Heather, come on in. Tell everybody hello.
Hello. Good morning, everyone.
Glad to have you with us this morning. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day to come back again and be our guest. Had a great show last time you were here.
Thanks for having
Angelica
me again.
Crystal, welcome to the show. Yeah, just I keep up with your blog, and you always have these interesting posts. And I thought today we can discuss any topic that you wish, but I'd really like to kind of talk a little bit about those haunted dolls that you wrote about. What's up with that?
Well, I've been interested in the Bell Witch Cave, well, the Bell Witch story in general, but had been wanting to go to the Bell Witch Cave for a while. And back in April, prior to me being able to actually visit the cave, I went down to Moundsville, West Virginia, to the Archive of the Afterlife, which is a paranormal museum that has haunted artifacts. And lo and behold, on one of the shelves was a doll that had a little Bell Witch Cave tag on it. And there was really no note next to her. The picture is actually on the blog. Her name was Blossom. I was able to find out. But I went over to Steve Hummel, who's the owner of the museum, and I asked him what the story was, because I had heard that the owner of the cave, Chris Kirby, had started making these dolls. She'll buy porcelain dolls, paint them up to look very creepy. And I wondered how this doll found its way into the museum. And he actually let me see a letter that was written, which is fascinating to me in general, letters that accompany haunted objects. But supposedly one of the Bell family ancestors, or descendants, I should say, not ancestor. One of the Bell family descendants bought the doll after visiting the Bell Witch Cave. Must have named her Blossom, because the dolls don't come with their own names. And said that there were scratches that she would wake up to, scratches and other bad luck had followed her. So she decided it was best to send it back, or not send it back, but send it to a place where it would be safer. So she sent it to Moundsville. It was a few months later that I was able to take my family down to the Bell Witch Cave, and my youngest daughter saw the back wall of the gift shop has dozens of dolls that are painted to look eerie. And she saw them. She was a little off-put at first, but then she told me that she wanted one of them. She knew which one she wanted, and she wanted to take it into the cave. And I said, well, listen, it's a cave. You can't bring a porcelain doll into a cave. So she patiently waited until after the tour was over, and then actually ran in front of us as we were going back up the hill. By the time I got to the gift shop, she was already sitting on the bench inside holding this doll in her arms. And the one girl that was in the shop running the cash register is Chris's granddaughter. I'd spent all day at the gift shop, by the way, taking notes on these letters and talking with the family and so on. So nothing had been said to me prior to this moment, but when I walk in, the granddaughter says to me, I tried to get her to have any other doll. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, that's the one she wanted. She pointed to it. That's the one she wanted. But if she wants a doll that looks like it's dressed in Christmas attire, we have others. And she starts pointing to these other dolls and trying to convince my daughter, who's 4, by the way, 4 years old, that she could have any other doll. And I said, well, why are we so concerned about this? What does it matter which doll she picked? And she said, well, it's just that last week, that particular doll was on the top shelf. Now, in this cabin where the gift shop is, I'd say the top shelf is probably 7 or 8 feet off the ground, and it's a wooden shelf and then a wooden floor. She said that the week before, there were other people in the, like tourists and things were in the gift shop, and that doll just fell off the top shelf straight down and hit the floor. It was the only one, and that it didn't crack for somehow. I don't know how. It didn't crack, but they've never had anything like that happen. So they picked it up, they put it on a lower shelf, I guess, in case it was going to throw itself off the next shelf or something. And that made it perfect line of sight for my daughter, I think. It was about her height, as low as it was. And so she said, well, it was really odd. And I said, well, I guess we're going to go with, if my daughter chose it, then I guess it kind of chose her. So we're going to take this one. Well, we brought her home. It's about an 8 or 9 hour drive for us from Adams, Tennessee, back home. My daughter held her most of the way and told me shortly after we got home that she had named her Sasha. and that Sasha talked to her while we were in the car. I can't remember exactly what all Sasha said to her, but I guess she says Sasha talks to her anyway. And we put her in the kitchen because my older children want nothing to do with Sasha, so they won't let her upstairs near the bedrooms. So Sasha has her own place in the kitchen on a stand, and every once in a while my daughter will ask to have her down to play with her. Usually she requests this after she's had nightmares, and when she has these nightmares, she'll wake up in the middle of the night and she'll say that Sasha gave her the nightmares and is upset with her because she was playing with other dolls and not her. So, yeah. So, last time I was on here, you mentioned the skeletons that I have for my children. They're like 3 feet tall or so. Apparently Sasha got a little bit upset about, according to my youngest anyway, got a little bit upset that she was playing with the skeleton and not her. So we actually had a time last week where Sasha came down from the shelf and my youngest played with her and introduced her to the skeleton. And since then, my youngest hasn't had any nightmares. So I don't know. But yeah. Oh, and the candle, there's a candle on the shelf. We have a couple candles around there. The whole area is kind of spooky because my friends and I play Dungeons and Dragons. And right now we're in the middle of a Strahd campaign for anybody who knows anything about Dungeons and Dragons. But I tried to make that whole area up to be the ambiance for while we're playing the game. And I have these candles. Well, there's one orange candle that will turn on by itself. And that's the one that I guess Sasha must favor, because when my youngest walks out into the kitchen, if that's on and it's something that I haven't turned on, it'll turn on overnight. She'll say something about, well, Sasha needs played with today or whatever. So.
Wow, that's amazing. Never a dull moment, it sounds like. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's fun.
The doll is jealous of the skeletons. Yeah, the last time I was at Bell Witch Cave, they didn't have any dolls available. So that's a new addition, and I think that's an awesome idea. Because I mean, right back to stories of things going on, because she's already got all those letters and things where people took a rock that they weren't supposed to, and said, please put this back. And got a couple people coming in here. Pumpkin Queen, how's it going in the Netherlands this morning? Pumpkin Queen, glad to have you with us. And Bottle Caps, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming in. But yeah, to me, there's always been something creepy about dolls, even ones that aren't haunted have just a certain air about them. I don't know. We were talking to Evil Vitch Sure last show, and she was talking about the dolls and how basically any inanimate object, including a doll, or especially a doll, maybe, can kind of take on its own life, if you will, and sort of start acting out. And I watched the new Creep show that they have on streaming. It's on Shudder and some other services there. The second story in episode 1 is about a haunted dollhouse, and I won't give out any spoilers, but if you haven't seen that, go watch it. It's worth it. Hey, good morning, Hellfire Narrations. Thanks for showing up. Good to see you here.
Yeah, as much as my youngest has this, I don't want to say love-hate relationship, but love and slightly scared relationship with Sasha, she said that she wants to get another one. She wants to go back to the cave and get another doll. So clearly it isn't too traumatic for her if she's wanting to add to it. And she already knows that apparently Sasha has a temper. So she must think that it's going to be okay to get another at some point.
And that's so cool that the other children kind of, don't bring it up here. We don't like it.
Yeah. I've actually, as horrible of a parenting move as this is, there's been times where they've been acting up and I'm like, do I need to bring Sasha up here so that she can keep an eye on you guys? And they'll, no. And they calm down. So there's a good fear of her for the older ones anyway.
Yeah, and I had a similar experience as a child when my brother, who was much older than I am, had moved out. He left behind some of his things, and one of those was a ventriloquist doll. I was scared to death of that thing.
Yeah.
And I used to get threatened with that if I was really showing out and not listening, my mom would threaten to go get it out of the closet, and that got my attention. No, no.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm okay with it. We haven't really had any issues as far as that goes, so I'm okay with the doll.
Haven't scratched anybody yet?
No, no one's been scratched. But when we first got her, actually, when I asked my youngest why she chose that one, she said that it was because she looked so scary that she was afraid that someone wouldn't choose her, and that she was actually really nice, and it wasn't fair if somebody didn't take her, and she wanted her to come home because she just didn't want her to be alone anymore. So
very, very interesting. Now, do they go to school and relate these stories to the other kids, or is it something that they keep quiet about? Or
I don't know. I've told them that they need to be careful what they say to friends because you don't know, one, how they'll receive it, or if they relay it to their parents, if I'm going to be getting a phone call, I don't know. So I said, you kind of got to suss out your friends and see what they're thinking before you start throwing haunted dolls and things into the conversation.
yeah, I had to have that conversation with my daughter when she was small. She grew up loving horror films. Talked about that before. She was afraid of Pee Wee Herman doll that I had, but she slept with a talking Freddy Krueger doll, and she had to be careful. She would pick out choice lines from some movies, like you can't say that around any adults or at school, but have fun.
Yeah.
And she kind of learned to pick her friends because there's a lot of other kids don't get it, or they're not allowed to watch things like that. And I was just like, if it bothers you, turn the channel, watch something else. And she just grew up happy and well adjusted. I know Unicorn's Tales, Tanya, that's here in the chat with us, her kids are like horror things, and she's ordered them Z-Horde hoodies for Christmas, and her son's excited about getting to wear it to school and flex on all the other kids with his scary merchandise there. So I think it's good to foster that creativity, creative thinking, if you will, in children. Let them know that there's other stuff out there, and it's not always necessarily scary. It can be, but rather instill in them that adults are the scariest creatures out there, and they're the ones you need to watch out for. Stranger danger.
Yeah, absolutely. But my oldest best friend tells stories. She has all kinds of interesting things that she'll come up with. When my daughter came home from school, she said, "Hey, my best friend told me that she got up last night. She did the 3 a.m. challenge," which is a hilarious thing to me. But she's like, she got up at 3 a.m. and she went downstairs and she saw her cat that had the cell phone on, and it had dialed the devil and was like summoning the devil. But it was a hilarious story. And she said, she told me this was true. And I said, well, it's not true, but I do appreciate her thoughts. And then I sent a text to her mother because her mother and I are friends, and her mother was horrified because she's like, I swear that I don't encourage this kind of talk. This is just my daughter coming up with stories. And I said, listen, if it were any other family, I don't know how they'd react, but I find it amazing. So she can tell those stories all day long. I think it's great.
That is amazing. And what was the cat called the devil on the cell phone at 3 a.m.?
I know. I said, your cat's pretty awesome if it has.
That kind of feeds into the whole the witch is familiar being a cat, and
oh yeah,
maybe I think most cats are agents of Satan anyway. The ones I've always had were
I don't know about that now.
Yeah, I've probably made all the cat people mad, but I've had some devil cats in my time. Like to knock things off shelves and tables, and then just sit there and look at you. They know what they're doing. It's like, yeah, I did it. What you gonna do about it? Agent Mulder had a cat, but when my daughter moved out, she took the cat with her. So he is catless now. But he and the cat used to spar and play with each other, and then finally the cat would get mad and slap him real good, and that ended playtime. But that sounds like one of those, like the the 3 a.m. challenge videos that you see like on
Oh, yeah.
YouTube. I've never
I
seen a
know.
cat do one, but I've seen it calling the devil at 3 a.m.
Yeah, she's gonna be so thrilled I shared that story too. I can't wait to tell her that.
Angelica Crystal in the chat there, she agrees with me. Cats are all agents of Satan.
She doesn't mean that. There's no way. That's my friend, Angel. Oh man.
No offense to cat lovers. Like I said, I love them too, but they've got a whole different vibe about them than dogs. It's a whole different personality. Very, very snide, very snarky. I've had some loving cats, but they still had that little edge to them that, I'm going to do it my way.
Yeah.
Getting back to the haunted dolls, I read some things about somebody that had bought like a basket full of corn husk dolls at a flea market. Have you ever seen a corn husk doll?
Yes. It has been a while though.
I figured in Ohio there they grow a lot of corn, so you'd probably seen one. But if you've never seen one, they take the corn husk and some twine and they tie up just a very rudimentary doll. And years ago, that was what kids played with when you didn't have money for toys and things. There was a lot of poor people in Appalachia, used to be and probably still are, and you kind of had to make your own fun. But this lady had bought a basket of corn husk dolls at the flea market, and when she brought them into her home, just literally all hell broke loose. The electronics started having problems, lights and things, and hear doors opening and closing at night, hear what she said sounding like the rustling of corn husks. So she finally decided it was something going on with this basket of corn husk dolls and got rid of it, and the problem stopped. So you can bring things home with you. I know I've walked into antique shops here in Portland and looked at some of the dolls and thought, yeah, no, I'm not, you're not coming home with me. A part of me would like to have a haunted doll, but I'll settle for my sock monkey. He's trouble enough. He's never scratched anybody, but he'll turn from time to time or pose a little differently, and it's just me and the dog can't reach it or he'd tear it apart. And the dog doesn't like it either. He'll sit and stare at it sometimes. So don't know what's up with that. It's an older one. It was given to me by a friend, but it's got a little bit of presence to it. I think it's kind of lazy. I'll see if that elicits any activity out of him by calling him lazy. He's sitting behind me over here on the shelf.
Just taunting him now.
And then my daughter, she went on to be a professional puppeteer and assistant curator at the Portland Puppet Museum. And I was talking to the guys there at the Puppet Museum one day. I'd gone to see, I think they were putting on the Mikado or something with marionettes, which was amazing. But they've talked about they've got some puppets that are apparently active, that they've got a huge storage area downstairs. They rotate their exhibits in and out. They've got some stuff going back several centuries to different parts of the world and things. And so they've got some puppets that they'll put in one place in the basement, and when they come back down there, they're other places. And so they had one that they would always find it face down on the floor, like he was trying to get away and just couldn't make it and collapsed.
Oh.
And and Andy and I were talking about this the other day, how the origins of the puppet were in the poppet, which is a kind of a voodoo doll type thing that people believe that you could imbue powers to or use it to curse someone for the most part when you think of voodoo dolls. But Andy also talked about how that poppets were sometimes used for good too. If somebody was having problems, you could make them feel better with the use of a poppet. So interesting concept there.
Yeah. And I think the most famous haunted doll, of course, would be Robert the doll, I would argue. And that's something that also has intrigued my youngest. We don't have regular cable. We have like Hulu and Netflix and so on. And I just came across, which apparently there was only ever one season of it, the Haunted Artifacts, the Ghost Adventures Haunted Artifacts with Zach Baggins.
Mm-hmm.
And the first episode talks about Robert the doll, and my youngest was glued to that.
I've been there in Key West. I've seen the doll, and it gives off just a really, really weird vibe. You're not supposed to take his picture unless you ask permission, and a lot of
Did you
people
take his picture?
no. I did not. I didn't want to take any chances. I didn't want to misinterpret
Right.
an okay that might have been a no and cause problems there. But it's got a very eerie feeling to it,
Yeah.
and just looking at it. And they claim it still moves around sometimes, even within its glass case. They'll find it turned a different way or posed in different fashion. And before, when it was just in the house of the man that owned it, I can't remember his name. His name was Robert too,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why he named the doll Robert. So anytime anything bad would happen, he'd say, "I didn't do it. Robert did it."
Right.
But, they would talk about people going by the house would see the doll like looking out the windows and stuff like that when there was nobody home. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Yes. Sasha doesn't do that for us, thankfully.
Not yet.
No. My youngest did say, though, at one point that she wished that she had a doll that looked like it could sail on the ocean. And I said, hey, let's not get too close to what Robert looks like here. That's unnecessary.
Yeah, he does wear a little sailor outfit and got his little stuffed lion with him.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a line that can be crossed here. Let's not do that.
And then, if I'm remembering the story correctly, I think he came from like the West Indies or somewhere like that. That Robert's the boy, so a caretaker or nanny or somebody brought him back from somewhere in the Caribbean, I believe. And
I thought he was made in Germany.
maybe that I may be getting my stories mixed up here, but it's a fascinating story nonetheless.
Oh, yeah.
If you folks have never heard about it, Google Robert the doll. It's a fascinating story, even partially true.
Yeah, and that's another one where there are letters that accompany it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You can find those online pretty easily.
Yeah, and they've got those there by where the doll's on display. They've got them on the walls, and
Oh,
you
awesome.
can walk around and look at all the letters and stuff. And it's just, yeah, it's like, especially after reading those, I'd planned on taking a picture. I was going to, Robert, can I take your picture? But I just, at the last minute, I'm just like, no, I'm gonna pass.
Well, yeah, because how do you know that it's a yes, that your camera didn't shut off? I mean, like, I don't know how you interpret that properly.
If you ask and don't get permission, then you can't take the picture. There's been people that report that happened, that the camera would fail when pointed at Robert. They could point it elsewhere in the little exhibit area there, and the picture's just fine, but it wouldn't work with Robert. But then there were other people that successfully took his picture without asking permission, and then had all kinds of bad things happen to them. And they would send the picture to the place. They would say, here, you put this up. One guy like broke his foot in a car crash and all this. It's fascinating to read all the different accounts, but it makes you wonder if there's something to that. Is there something to the doll? Is it just a thought form there that people have created by thinking all these negative things and retelling the stories about the doll?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. And it doesn't just, like you said, it doesn't always extend just to the dolls and so on. For that, Robert obviously has a reputation that precedes him before you even walk into the museum. But even the Bell Witch Cave, the rocks, people taking things from locations. And sometimes I think this happens when it's not even necessarily a known haunted location, that people take things and such bad things occur afterwards. Yeah. I called Moundsville, the West Virginia Penitentiary. If no one has been there, it's worth your time to go visit. But I called down to Moundsville early last year to ask if they had any stories of people taking something from the prison and then returning it for a similar reason. You know, things went poorly after they took it or what have you. And the woman that I talked to said that she wasn't aware of anything like that, but that she actually had a story. And she had gone to an old cemetery. I think she said it was the year prior, before I called, but she went to an old cemetery and there was a little figurine on the ground. I think it was just by the fence. Yeah, it was by the fence because she wouldn't have taken it from a grave. But it was a little statue of a bird, and she took it and because she thought it was cute, she brought it home, and all kinds of things happened. I believe she said her daughter was severely injured. They nearly got killed in a boating accident. Just all of these things started to fall apart. So she drove back to the cemetery and just threw it back across the fence. And everything was fine after that. But she said when she thought back on it, she realized that where she found it so far away from the headstones that it was almost as if someone else had taken it and thrown it back.
Okay.
And but yeah, it was not as far as I know, that cemetery doesn't have a reputation of being haunted. When I went down to Moundsville, I had her tell me where it was so that I could go check it out too. But the only dangerous part that I could tell about that cemetery is that it's a blind entrance and exit to get out of it on a highway where people travel at 70 miles an hour. So it'd be very easy to get into an accident, but it didn't give off any really creepy vibes necessarily.
I'm getting word in the chat here that both Unicorp's Tales and Angelica Crystal heard an EVP come through while we were talking.
Ooh.
Not sure what they heard, but I don't have anything playing in the background here, anything that could make any noise. It's quiet. Mulder's under the desk asleep. You have anything in the background there that might sound like an EVP?
Nope, I'm sitting out in the garage. My youngest just wandered out here a couple minutes ago, but she hasn't said a word. She's just trying to poke at the microphone. And she'd also sound like a child. What did it sound like?
Going back to the chat here and see.
I mean, my youngest hasn't said anything, but now I'm curious what this sounded like, or if
I
you could make out anything.
I didn't hear anything in the stream that I was aware of. I'll have to go back and listen to it later.
Yeah.
Unicorp's Tale says it was a second female voice at the same time you were talking, Heather. So maybe Sasha is whispering to you there.
Maybe. There shouldn't be any feedback or anything on my, because I have my computer muted and wireless headphones in, so it shouldn't be.
And I had that happen one morning here. Dezombified. I was talking to Kenny and Miss Stereo, and I could hear whispering, and I thought it was something going on their end, and they heard it too, thought it was something on my end, and the people in the chat heard it. And it turns out it wasn't them, it wasn't me, but there was somebody whispering in there somewhere.
That's crazy.
And yeah, Tanya is saying, our Unicorps is saying that it wasn't a child's voice.
Okay. Huh. Well, maybe I should send my youngest out to the kitchen and ask her if Sasha's okay.
Maybe Sasha wants to come on and say hi.
She just said Sasha's fine.
Okay. Well, glad to hear that she hasn't taken a dive off the...
Oh, I have her stuck pretty well because I don't want her to break. If there... In the chance that there is anything with her, I certainly don't want her broken on my watch. So she's not falling. I've got her stuck. I'm still here. I don't know where Steve is.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
I don't know what happened there. My mic just stopped working and then it started back. So we're having some strange things happening this morning here. I'm not quite sure what's going on. Did you hear me talking about the whispering that I heard on the stream?
Yes.
Right. Okay. I'm not sure where it cut out at.
About the last 20 seconds or so, I think. Okay.
I was talking about having Tanya on Unicorp's Tales as a guest last week. And she has a video on her channel called Billy, which is about a ghost spirit child, if you will, that lives with them in their home there and interacts with their son. And I'd gone back to listen to that video again after the show. And I think it's around the 32-second mark. You can hear what sounds like a child's laughter in there. So I don't know. Is that an EVP? It's interesting though. If you haven't, go have a listen to it.
That's
But
cool.
yeah, well, kind of some spooky things going on here this morning. I've had that happen on other shows that I've been a guest on, where people would say, "I was listening to you on such and such show," and one lady said that a glass bowl of wax fruit sitting on her table exploded. Had another guy tell me I was talking about the calendar falling off the wall. That happens in my family a lot of times before somebody's going to pass away. And he said, just as I said that, all the pictures on one of his walls fell.
Wow.
And then Cisco and I, when we've done some shows together, we've had some strange things happen. We've had EVPs and had equipment malfunction and go haywire. We were on with Soraya Askath on WBBR FM in Ithaca, and he lost control of all his recording stuff, and he just let it run. We couldn't hear him, couldn't talk to him, he couldn't interact with us. So we just, of course, we were already talking and didn't notice for a while, like maybe an hour or so. And then later on, at the end of the tape, Soraya, he's there, just fall asleep. And not sure what happened there, but he lost control of his equipment there, but it kept recording. So, well, whoever or whatever is messing with us, hopefully leave us alone now. All my stuff looks good. No explanation there. My mic just winked out. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's take a moment here and do a little commercial break. Give everybody time to regroup here and see what's going on. All right. Be sure and visit the Dezombified Teespring store for some fabulous merchandise there. Got custom mugs. Yesterday, Lewis Witt dropped by and called into the channel, and he was drinking coffee out of his Dezombified mug and put a picture up on Twitter. Get you one of those mugs if you like to drink coffee, tea, milk, whatever. You don't have to put liquid in it. You can put your hamster, your guinea pig ice cream that we were talking about yesterday, maybe. Toothbrush, your flesh-eating plant. Feed me, Seymour. And check out, they've got stickers now with the great Man TV artwork of the zombie there. Got hoodies. Got them in kid sizes now. I was telling you about the kids that's going to wear his to school and flex on all the other kids. Send your kids to school in a Z-Horde hoodie. You get some attention, that's for sure. Yeah, check out all the merch on the Teespring store. Got a lot of great stuff on there, more to come. And every penny that spent on the Z-Horde store or sent in through donations, which you can do as well, that all goes back into making the show better for me and you and all the Z-Horde family. Appreciate the labor, love, the time and work that Kenny Dreadful and Miss Stereo put into having this show available for us, and for giving people like me a platform to bring in people that I find interesting and love to hear about, like my guest today. And if you can't donate, you can't buy merch, that's cool too. Do what you're doing right now. Show up in the chat, participate, or lurk, that's up to you. But come by the show, give us a like, share, subscribe, pass the word on. Let's grow the Z-Horde family.
This one goes out to all you Dezomba friends, the Z-Horde. We want you to know just how much we love you.
Shout out to Ophelia Noctis, creepy clown girl, dark carnival got this. A look on nightmare is so amazing. Puerto Rican Jose's entertaining. Dark waters, dog man is twisted. Nation 1994, really gifted. Dustin Flemings, stronger than the rock. Hellfire's out here making everything hot. Yeah, Braden 23 of fire's a G. Where kryptonite's down, Kitty's family. Now there are times when we all need gore. Danny Martians in the house, never know what's in store. Mandy Mortem is legit and a queen. Gothic Rose enchanting, she's on the scene. 13 past midnight, things that go bump in the night. Gory B horror addicts are out of sight. Big ups to the late horror show. Emily's Adventures in Horrorland, here we go. And you know we gotta keep them dice rolling. MD Who Entertainment, she's been chosen. Give it up for the evil outcast. Swedish mom is dope, yo, you know she got class. So if you get bad vibes from storytelling, then these monsters in my mind will leave you yelling. You see, we all about hearing stranger stories on the creeps. So sweet, she really got love for me. Penny tails up, narrating for the win. Queenie Tade amazing, but real dark and grim. Dementor centaurs, flickathon, swamp dwellers. Scolded 22, they be our fellas. Animated tone, time we lives. Our fantastic panic, deep paranormal history. Great graphics. What's up, Bullet Greedy? I meant CP. I'm gonna get so bent with nefarious TV. Slumber reads art of morbid. Cap 7, truly salmon. And we can never forget about Karen. 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 Karen.
All right, we're back. We went into the Z Horde anthem there. Had little issues with the chat there. Not sure what's going on. Weird things happening this morning. Cisco, you had me going there for a minute. I thought all your dishes did fall out of your cabinet, and then I saw the part at the end. We're trying to resolve the issues that are going on in the chat. Everybody just hang tight. We're getting it worked out. All right. Well, I'm Steve Stockton, 13 past midnight. I'm your host for the morning Horde Rush here on Dezombified. Talking with my guest today, Heather Mosier, weird writer, classicist, all-around Renaissance woman, I would chance to say. We've been talking haunted dolls this morning. Any other doll stories that you have for us today, Heather?
I'm trying to think if there were any other issues with Sasha, but I don't have any more that I can think of. In general,
I know you're sent me a great picture the other day on Facebook Messenger of your Ouija board collection.
Oh yeah, it's super tiny, but now I have 3 of them now, and my first one, my mom bought me when I was probably 7 or 8 years old, and it just looks like the standard Ouija board, the standard Ouija board, I don't know. And when I was in middle school or high school, I had actually bought one for a friend that was a glow-in-the-dark one. And she had it for years and then lost it as we got older. And I was thinking about it earlier this year, and I thought, man, I'd really like to have one that glows in the dark. They don't make them anymore. So I found one on eBay, and I have it. Once I brought it into the house, my old one stopped working. It refused to, anytime you get on it, it would either just go to no or goodbye every time you try to talk. The glow in the dark one, it would move and answer questions, but not on my original one. And the thought was, which my dad actually came up with this, he said, well, maybe it's mad at you for bringing another board into the house. And when he said that, it went over to yes. So it had a fit about it, I guess. And I just put it away and didn't mess with them. And then last weekend, I don't know, this is a nationwide chain, I think, the Halloween spirit stores that pop up, and they actually have a deluxe edition Ouija board that has a wooden planchette, and the board itself looks really antique. And I bought it because it looked really cool. And then we had all 3 of them out at my parents' and we got them. They all worked. My old one that had been throwing a fit months ago was being really stubborn at first, and then eventually I think it realized that we were going to use the other ones if it didn't start working. So it started working again finally.
Wouldn't think of a Ouija board being jealous, but I guess it happens.
Yeah, it was a little bit unsettling when it started acting like that. When my dad had put forward that maybe it was jealous and it said yes, I thought, all right, this is really confusing, because I would assume that if a spirit were speaking, it wouldn't matter what it communicates through. So why are we worried about a particular board? And if it's the board itself that's jealous, then that's a little more off-putting to me, I guess, because I never thought of it that way.
Fascinating. I've seen some amazing ones. My daughter has one on a keychain, little plastic drawer in it, pulls out, there's a little tiny planchette in there. She took some pictures of the cat using it.
Oh my gosh, I had that whenever I was younger, and I lost it, and I've been looking everywhere for one of the, because I think I can find some on eBay, but I had that.
Yeah,
And
I think that one we got it at like a bookstore, I think like Books A Million or one of those chain bookstores. But yeah, she's had it since she was a child and still has it. I haven't seen them, but yeah, you can probably find them on eBay. And then I've seen pictures where people have taken a coffee table and made a Ouija board out of it. And there was one picture where somebody had done their wooden floor in their living room up like a Ouija board.
Yeah.
And somebody had commented, yeah, everything's fun and games until Roomba summons the devil. So
yeah.
little, automatic vacuum cleaner sweeper things, the robot vacuum cleaner.
Absolutely. That I have of course I love going to the Halloween stores, as do my children, but one of the last times I was in there, they had these little mints and about the size of an Altoid tin, but it's a Ouija board. And then the mints inside are shaped like planchettes. So I got a couple of those, and they're in my purse.
Yeah, I've seen those before. Those are pretty awesome. And some of the neatest boards I've ever saw were some of the handmade ones. There was a craft store and indoor flea market type thing in Las Vegas that I used to go to. And there was a lady in there. She had other things, but she had to call them something else. So she called them witch boards.
Right.
And they were just very intricate, and everything was hand carved. She put a lot of time and effort into them. They were expensive. They're like,
oh sure,
they started around $150 and went up, and she could even do a custom one for you.
Wow.
I never did get one, but I would love to have one made just for me.
Yeah, it's a very small collection I have, but I'd like to have more someday. I think I'm a little more intrigued by the planchettes than I am the boards themselves. I think they look really neat. But if you go on Etsy, you can find all kinds of spirit boards, witch boards, whatever you want to call them. They can't say Ouija because of the trademark, but
yeah. There's a video that I watched on YouTube of a guy that has like the Ouija or the talking board museum. And it's just fascinating. He's got all these different boards, all kinds of planchettes. And some of the planchettes are not just for witch boards, but they have a place for an ink pen or pencil and try the automatic writing and things like that. So
yeah,
fascinating stuff to see.
Yeah.
He had some that were like very rare. One they had that was popular at one time, I think like in the early 1900s. He's got the only one still known to be in existence, but I can't remember the name of the channel. But if you just search for Talking Board Museum, you should be able to find it. But as far as the actual Ouija boards, I like the different box art. I showed you a picture of the one that I had there from the 60s that had the hooded oracle figure there in blue against like a space background. And there's been some interesting changes in the cover art or the box art over the years.
Yeah, I don't know if I haven't looked for the plain ones to know if they've changed it recently. Mine has it's just the picture of the hands. Some hands on the planchette is what's on the picture of my old board. I think that's pretty standard now, though.
Yeah. I think the most recent one I saw was like that, very similar to it. I haven't looked that closely. And I remember for a brief time there where they had the glow-in-the-dark planchette. I don't know why they don't make that one still.
Awesome.
Just make both, you know?
Yeah, I will say that the glow-in-the-dark one and the one that's sold at the Spirit Halloween stores, that's the deluxe version, the board is much smaller. than the standard Ouija board, which it can be difficult to deal with whenever things start moving too quickly, because the planchette tends to fall off the board. Not like it's flying off the board, but as it's moving around, there's just not enough room. So I don't like that aspect of it.
The Ouija Museum that I was talking about, Angelica, let me see.
Is that the one that's in Massachusetts? Or
it's let me put a link into the chat here. It's a really nice website we've got here. Yeah, it's the museumoftalkingboards.com. I put a link in it there.
Oh, it's in Baltimore.
There. And when you start moving around on the website there, your mouse pointer turns into a planchette.
That's cool.
And then I think he's got the gallery there, and I think he's got a link to the videos as well. It's fascinating to go back and look at the history. He talks about films that the Ouija board played a part in, including the most famous probably being The Exorcist. That was kind of what started things off in that film. It's got a collector's corner there and information for people that are looking to get into collecting them. There's Ouija stories that people have sent in. Just fascinating stuff. And then the gallery there. See, they currently have 96 talking boards. Go in there and take a look. They've got, looks like the oldest one is from 1891, and then all the way up to some of the unusual ones. Fascinating. If you have any kind of interest in Ouija, go check it out. It's worth the time. And there's somewhere on YouTube, and then maybe there's a link here on that page somewhere. But somebody goes and visits the guy, and he displays various parts of his collection.
That's cool. I don't know how many people here listen to the podcast Monster Talk. It's been one of my favorites for a while. But they recently had, I think it was an episode back in September. I don't remember if it's the most recent one or not, but they had a man on there named Robert Murch, who was one of the founders of the Talking Board Historical Society. And it was really interesting to hear him talk about the history of the boards and planchettes and stuff. That was a really good episode. Also for Ouija board fans. Which he also explained that it's okay to say Ouija or Ouija, even though I think initially it was Ouija is what they intended it to be.
Yeah, it's yes in French and German there apparently put together. But that was, excuse me, in the South it was Ouija. It was a Ouija board.
Yep, that's what I say. That's what I was always told since I was little.
But you also here in the South, you'll hear about Vienna sausage for Vienna sausages. So just because you hear it a certain way when you're a kid, depending on where you grew up, that doesn't mean it's right. Sometimes you get out in the world and you get kind of a surprise, like, I've been saying it wrong all these years. I have no idea what I was talking about. Pumpkin Queen, congratulations on your 200 sub milestone there. Glad to hear that. Onward and upward. Keep it up.
But yeah, Ouija boards have always been a part of my life. Like I said, my mom, I'd heard stories about it before my mom bought me one. Well, I guess I should say mommy and dad. It wasn't like mom went out by herself and bought it. But I've had them, or had one since I was young, and I just always kind of thought it was funny that people would be frightened of them, because I didn't have any horrible experiences, I guess, or I also didn't grow up watching movies like, what was it, Witchboard? Is that what the series was called?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't watch those, so I also didn't have that to cause issues. But one really interesting Ouija board story. My one friend and I would play on mine often, the one that I bought the glow in the dark board for. And I remember one night we had a sleepover at someone else's house, and we were playing on the Ouija board, and it told us that the next day my best friend wouldn't be able to be picked up on time to go home. And it said that it was because her stepmom was going to be in a motorcycle accident and that her leg was going to be hurt. And so there would be a delay, that she would live, but she was going to be hurt. And we're like, okay, whatever. Well, the next morning, we get a phone call around 9 or 10 o'clock saying that her stepmom had laid out the bike and that she was scraped up real bad, and it was going to be a few hours before she could be picked up. So we had things like that would happen every once in a while with the board.
Yeah, I've got my first one. I was 5 years old, and I'd been to the doctor for something or other. I had all kinds of allergies and things until I had my tonsils and adenoids removed. And when we had stopped by the drugstore to pick up medicine, I'd gone on down the sidewalk and gone into Woolworths, and I spotted one, and it was the one with the blue on there, and I was like, "Oh, what's that?" And my mom kind of explained to me what it was, and I had to have it.
Yeah.
And got one and went home and played with it, and got some results. I talk about that. I've got a video called Ouija and Me that delves into all that. And then the most interesting experience I think that I had with one was much later on in life. I was at a party where one was being used, and I didn't know anybody there. I didn't really even know the person that I had come there with, somebody that I worked with. And some girls had found a Ouija board under the couch and were asking it questions, and they were going around the room to different people. And when it got to me, the only thing I could think of was what scared me when I was a kid. And the board spelled out something. I went and looked it up, and if you're interested in that story, that's on The Thing in the Ditch, about something which to this day I have no idea what it was. Scared the life out of me when I was 8, and then again at 15. And according to the Ouija board, it was some sort of water spirit, a dryad or naiad, or I talk about it in that video. I'd never even heard that word. The people playing the Ouija board had spelled out water sprite at that time, and they didn't know what it was talking about. They're like, oh, maybe it's thirsty. And I had actually went to the library the next day and talked to the reference librarian, and she looked up all these elementals and fey creatures and stuff, and sure enough, it fit what had happened. And those girls had absolutely no way of knowing anything that I was talking about. And I didn't register anything. I was like, yeah, okay. And then all the way home, like, holy cow, what is that water sprite? Because it was around water, that property that was on. There were 7 natural springs there that flowed out of the ground and then into one that went into the lake. So there was some kind of guardian something or other there that didn't like me being around it. So
yeah, naiads and dryads are pretty interesting parts of mythology too. The naiads are the ones that are the water ones. Dryads are trees.
Okay.
Are associated with tree spirits.
Yeah, that was the reference librarian. She said even though it said water sprite, it might be this, because it was in the woods too. So it might have been both. Who knows? But it was something came up out of the ditch and chased after me, and I couldn't see anything. There was nothing there, but I could see the leaves moving in its wake. Like, imagine somebody running through the woods and just kind of not picking their feet all the way up off the ground, or the leaves were deep enough that even if you were walking normally, you would disturb them. But that's what it was. And I was 8, scared the daylights out of me. Ran screaming down the hill. I was making so much noise, my mom heard me coming down the hill. I was probably a quarter mile from the house, and I was out on the back porch waiting for me when I got in. My dad and brother went back up there, looked around, nothing. I wouldn't go up there for a long, long time. Had one of my friends from school come over, and I sent him up there, and I stayed down the hill behind a tree to watch. Nothing bothered him. And then I just stayed away from there for years. And then right before we moved, I was 15 years old. I was just kind of having one more look around the property, because that was woods that I played in. We had 26 acres, and only 7 of it cleared off. So I had a lot of woods to play in. And I walked back up there, and I'm just, thinking, I was thinking back on that. I wonder what that was that scared me. And darn if it didn't come out of the ditch again. Same circumstances. All of a sudden, I hear the leaves. I look. There's something coming toward me that I can't see. And I didn't run screaming down the hill that time, but I didn't waste any time getting down the hill.
Sure, I don't blame you.
And that was within just a few days we moved. I've never been back there, so I don't know. There's someplace in West Knox County near Knoxville, Tennessee, that if you go in the woods, something will chase you out of there. That area is actually, it's all grown up now. I was looking at it on Google Maps. I've been gone from there for like that area for 15 years. There's like a volunteer fire station or something there really close to where that happened. It may have been dug up and gone now. So, but anyway, interesting. But the Ouija knew. So
Yeah. Well, that one of my other blog posts that I have, it's called Down the Rabbit Hole. I talk about my mom's experience with the Ouija board when she was younger, and the spirit Elizabeth that was in her house, and how I've tracked down years later the chain of ownership of that property, and that there was an Elizabeth there that had lived there for several years and so on. But they had their mom, my grandmother, bought them a Ouija board, I guess, and they played on it for a while, but then my aunt got scared of it and had it burned, I believe. And she actually came home for a visit. She lives in Florida now. She came home for a visit this summer, and I was talking to her about that board. And she said that she just had to burn it because she felt like it was a portal to another side. And I said, well, they're still having issues in that house. I said, what if you burnt the only way to go back? Like, you closed the door so that spirit can't go anywhere.
Closed the door and broke it and burned it.
I was like, so if that's the case, then maybe all the hauntings are your fault now because you closed the door. And she was like, oh, I never thought of
A little food for thought there. I've heard of that though. People breaking them in half and burning the pieces. And one of my books, I've got a story about somebody that was out in the woods and found where somebody had built a fire and had tried to burn a Ouija board. So who knows? Got a couple people in the chat here that want to say hi to. Pet Fox Arts, glad to have you with us this morning. Michael Anchors, music official. Hi, Michael. Welcome aboard. Talking some spooky stuff here this morning with our guest Heather Mosier. Human Raptor, how are you today? He's back from the islands. So then if I'd ask him if it's hot where he's at today. It's not hot here. It's cold here. Let's see. Angelica says she'll go to Tennessee if she can be chased out of the woods by something. Well, it can probably happen. It may not be what you want to chase you, but there are certain places you go to in Tennessee, you'll get chased out of the woods. Might be an angry moonshiner or a pot farmer or worse, but you can get chased out of the woods there, no problem. Margbot, hey there, how are you doing? Glad you could join us. I need to check with Dezombified real quick and see how long I'm going to run today, because I'm past my usual time limit. You guys could whisper in my ear with your dulcet tones there and let me know how long I have. Okay. All right, so we've got about 20 more minutes there. Just had a fascinating time with Heather this morning. If anybody's got any questions for Heather, our lines are open. You can give us a call, 978-716-5389. Also talk to me, or if you just want to call in and say hi, promote your channel or whatever, go ahead. Everybody's welcome to call, but you only call one at a time the way it's set up now. And so you can call in, promote your channel if you want. Please, no self-promotion in the chat unless asked. Try to keep YouTube happy here. Do things the way they like it. No share for share, sub for sub, or anything like that. Again, that's 978-716-5389. So yeah, Mark, I have the morning show here. I host the morning Horde Rush, typically on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Times can change like they did today. I came on at 6 this morning. Earliest I've been on in a while. I think the earliest I've ever been on. I've been on at 7 local time before, but I'm up anyway, so having a good time here. This has been another great show. I like having Heather on here because she's so knowledgeable about all these arcane and esoteric things. If you haven't already, check out her blog over on ITF, or I think it's actually written out as intothefrayradio.com. Just search on that term and you can find it that way. Maybe we can get somebody, one of our beautiful mods here, to put a link in the chat. Heather, did you have anything else you wanted to cover or talk about? Any shout outs? Anybody you wanted to say hi to?
Well, we were talking about Ouija boards when we spoke about haunted dolls. We could talk about the last 13 past midnight that I did, if you wanted.
Oh yeah, she did an amazing video for me, or narration for me, of one of her stories. So she wrote it and narrated. Tell everybody about that.
So the one that has been posted is about my son when he was about 3 years old. Just randomly one day while we were waiting to pick his older sister up from school, because he was in preschool at the time, so he only went half days. We were sitting in the parking lot waiting to pick up his older sister, who was in kindergarten, and he saw a game that I was playing on my phone. It seemed, if memory serves correctly, it was more like a Candy Crush type game. It wasn't Candy Crush, but it was something similar. And he says, "My Nana used to play that game." And he had been talking about this Nana periodically for a week or so before that. And finally I was like, okay, who's Nana? That isn't a word that he'd used before. And he says that Nana was like his grandmother, but for his family before this one. And so if this hadn't happened to me before with my daughter, my oldest, I might have been a little put off, and I may not have even asked any questions, but my older daughter had a similar story when she was the same age, actually. So I started to ask questions. Okay, tell me about Nana. What goes on? And he goes on to tell me that Nana was like his grandmother, and that she played that game. He loved her very much, and they lived together. And one night, a man broke into the home and killed her. And that he had tried to save her, but he was unable to before she had passed. And so in his rage, he killed the intruder. And that afterwards there was a funeral. He was extremely sad. And it sounds to me as if, based on the way he explained it, he was just in a complete depression. And so he got into a car and started driving as fast as he could until he lost control and he hit a tree. And then he said, though, and he was able to explain to me how his body like hit the front of the car and so on, because he didn't have a seatbelt on. Like, it was really disturbing to watch him do this. But he was sitting in the back seat and he hopped up and he threw himself against the back of the passenger seat to show me how he hit. And he's like, but it didn't hurt, because as soon as it happened, I flew out of the car and then into your belly. And I was like, all right, what was I doing? Like, what was going on? And he said, well, you and Dad were sitting in the living room watching, or you were eating dinner. And he said, but you didn't get to finish because I was ready to have a new family. And I don't think you got a chance to finish, which actually he's the only of my three. He's the only one that came before his due date. And we were sitting in the living room watching TV. We were actually, my husband had just brought me some food. And we had turned on wrestling because we had missed out on a Monday Night Raw or something. And I didn't get much food in me before the first contraction hit, and it was very strong. I didn't have any other minor contractions. It was a major contraction. And by the time we got someone here to watch my oldest daughter and then got to the hospital, it was about an hour and a half before he was actually born. So by the time we got there, I remember them rushing around. Do you want an epidural? And I said, yes. And they said, well, we got to go now, because he was ready to come. And, but it was really quick, but he doesn't remember that now. And it's the same with my daughter, who has a story of her life before this one. They remembered it really clearly when they told it, and then within a few weeks, you could bring it up and they wouldn't even remember telling me about it.
That's amazing. You were saying that when you let him listen to the narration that you did for my channel, that he was like, "Mom, how did I know all that?"
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he was like, "How did I know? How did that happen?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just wrote it down."
And I told you, talking about, had a similar experience with my daughter when she was really small, like probably 2 or so. She would wake up at night crying for her other family and insist that she had another family somewhere. And then once we get her calmed down, she'd go right back to sleep and didn't really have a memory of it even the next day. She doesn't remember it at all now. And one time she even sang part of a song that her other mother sang to her, and it sounded like Spanish to me. I don't know. It sounded like Gusanila or something like that. I have no idea what she was singing. Nobody in the house spoke Spanish, and she was just little. She could barely speak English, and here she was singing a little Spanish song. I'm like, so who knows? There's some strange things like that happen that makes you question, afterlife or reincarnation. But there's been other stories about that where there was one kid that I remembered being like a fighter pilot. Excuse me.
Yeah,
Late, the crash that killed him, the plane that shot him down, and things like that. And just, wow, boggles the mind.
Yeah, that's whenever I started. I mean, obviously I'd heard of reincarnation, but I hadn't really thought too much about it. But when my oldest had told me her story, I started Googling to see if there were other stories like that, because that's normally what I do. When something odd happens, I go straight to Google to see if I'm alone in this or what other people's experiences have been. And I found websites upon websites of parents that had posted what their children had said. There was one that really stuck out to me. Of course, I think it's because of, it's just the nature of it, but her son was terrified of skyscrapers, and he had said that it was because of the planes hitting them. He was afraid of the planes hitting them again. So he would go into a complete shutdown if they went into a big city, because he said he remembered the planes hitting the buildings and the buildings falling. And so she was thinking, he was born after September 11th. So she was afraid that maybe he was one of the people who passed away there. But it was so bad that they had to put him in therapy to get him to be able to function when they left their house, because they lived in a large city.
Wow.
So I'm just thankful that with mine, as bad as some their stories were, as sad, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
And in the case of my son, as violent as it was, we didn't have any lasting issues.
Probably the first one I can ever remember reading, and this was when I was just a kid. I think it was in either one of those Ripley's Believe It or Not books, or it might have been in a Frank Edwards book. He wrote Strange World, Stranger Than Science, and Stranger Than Fiction, and some of those. It was a girl named Ashanti Devi. Have you ever heard of her?
I have not.
She's from India, and that was one of the first documented cases. I put a little link in the chat there, the Wikipedia article. And interesting, fascinating case, very compelling evidence for reincarnation. There was even brought before Mahatma Gandhi. But for some reason, her name just stuck with me, and I thought, is that the right name? I typed it in. Sure enough, it was. It's strange how little things like that will stick in your head. That said, I first read that story probably around 1968 or 1969, somewhere around in there, and it's sitting in my brain, taking up space. Just amazing. So if there anybody in the chat have any kids with reincarnation memories, it seems to be kind of common, or maybe more so, or maybe that's just the circles that I travel in. But I've heard other people talk about their children insisting that they had other families before. But yeah, your daughter's story was just equally as fascinating. But the reason I asked you to narrate the son's story was that postscript there at the end where it is just the
Right.
way you stated it, the part about him talking about flying into your belly,
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't get to finish eating, and then it
Yeah,
happened
that had actually
exactly like
happened.
that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
and of course he would have had no way of knowing that. Probably not something you talk about.
No.
And then there you go. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my daughter's it was just hers was really sad and emotional, but it seemed based on her, she lived a long life. She was very old, where my son's story, it sounds as if he wasn't very old when all of that happened.
Mm-hmm. Happy trails hiking. Thank you for joining us today. You have a happy Wednesday as well. Hump day headed into the weekend here.
And my youngest doesn't have a story like that. She never told us a story like that. The one that has Sasha.
Mm-hmm.
She's never had stories.
Sasha told her not to tell.
Maybe.
But, I'm going to keep an eye on your blog there and watch for updates on Sasha. Certainly let us know if anything further interesting happens with that. We'll have you back on to tell about it.
Yeah. Oh, I did put in a note at the bottom of the blog, because I do remember this now when I was finishing it up, that my youngest walked downstairs and she saw that I was typing. And she asked me what I was doing. And I said, well, I'm writing a post about Sasha. And she's like, oh, you can't do that. And I'm like, what? And she's like, you can't. Sasha doesn't want you to. I was like, what do you... And she said, well, she just doesn't want anybody to be afraid of her. She said, you need to read it to me. And then, because I was typing in the kitchen with Sasha right behind me, she said, you need to read it out loud to me, and I'll let you know if Sasha says it's okay. And so I had to read the whole post to her, and she said, all right, Sasha says that's not too bad. So
everybody's a critic, even the haunted doll. Man, that's not too bad. So like, okay, you can.
Well, it's better than her saying no, because it was going to get published anyway. So
absolutely. So didn't want to run into a Robert the Doll situation there where your typewriter disappeared or your blog post keeps disappearing or something.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Heather, I want to thank you again. I've had a wonderful time this morning. You're always a delightful guest, and even though it's just the second time you've been here, I hope this is the next of many.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me.
Sometime in the future, you're a wellspring, just a fountain of knowledge there about all these legends and folklore and so much more than we really get time to go into here. But people check out blog posts there. Now, is that the only presence you have on the web? You don't have a website or...
Yeah, no, I don't have my own website or anything like that. The Weird Writer stuff, and most recently, if anybody here that's familiar with Small Town Monsters, I helped with research on the Missouri Monster documentary that just came out, and will be a part of the Mothman Legacy and the Mark of the Bell Witch, which will be out next year. So I'm doing research on that end there. So
wow, looking forward to that. Love the Small Town Monsters series. They've got some good stuff and more on the way from what I understand. Now, that be an ongoing relationship with them, or?
Oh, I certainly hope so.
Yeah.
I every time that I'm seeing everything as if it's a constant audition, I guess. I want to do as great as I can for whatever they need so that they want me to stick around.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a plum gig to have right there. And your writing is very good. I mean, you're obviously very well studied and intelligent. You have a degree in
Latin literature. I have a master's in Latin literature.
You remember if it was Latin or Greek? So
yeah, I took 1 year Greek and hated it, but I had to take it. That was for my undergraduate. To get a classics degree, you had to have 1 year of ancient Greek and then four years of Latin, I believe. And so I had a Latin undergrad and a classics undergrad. I took that 1 year of Greek, and it was fine. The only reason I hated it was because it took so much time that I was spending more time on it than Latin, and Latin's what I wanted to spend my time on.
Yeah.
So
I took Latin and I enjoyed it, but I probably only remember a handful of words, most of it legalese. You know, that was that was one of the requirements. I was doing my pre-law at the time before I decided not to go to law school. I had to change of heart and switch to English major, but yeah, I had to take Latin as part of my pre-law studies, and I found it fascinating. And to this day, you know, I can take a word that I've never heard and kind of break it down in either the Latin or the Greek to a degree and figure out what it is and what it means, the origin of it anyway, if not the actual current meaning of it.
Yeah, it's super helpful. And I think some of the draw of it for some people is that you don't really speak it. I mean, there are people that speak it, and there are some teachers who teach it through like orally through spoken word, but in general, it's a really good language to take if someone doesn't want to speak. If they're okay with just reading and translating, then that's a good way to get your language credit. It's not a conversational language. It is, I guess, as they say, a dead language.
Definitely, yeah. But, it's just short phrases and little altruisms and things, kind of catchphrases or hashtags, if you will.
Yeah. But my favorite parts of some of the classes that I took, because I've always been into spooky and creepy things, there was an epigraphy class that I took. It was one of my favorite Latin classes where we studied like gravestones and inscriptions. It wasn't just headstones, but we studied any inscription on coin or carved into stone.
Oh, that'd be fascinating. A lot of people walk around. You've probably got something Latin in your pocket. E pluribus unum. Most people have no idea what that means. Or the one on the back of the dollar bill, Novus. I can't remember it right now. I don't have a dollar bill handy. But
yeah. Well, the best part was when we would, around Halloween, around October, our professor would ask us, you know, there's, I don't know, you give us 5 categories of different epigraphy sections. Which one do you want to do? And I always voted for curse tablets because that falls into epigraphy as well. And so I was able to rally people because I took the class a couple times. I took it as an undergraduate and then again for fun as a graduate student. And so I would really present my case as to why, especially in October, we needed to study curse tablets. So we got to do that.
Looking back and how you took things for fun. And now it's like, oh my God, what was I thinking? I remember one of the summers when I thought I was still going to law school, I took triple intensified Spanish to keep my mind sharp, I thought. And it made me insane. I was dreaming in Spanish there for a while. And I think it was so traumatic that I just kind of blocked it out. I was talking to Miss Stereo earlier. Apparently they had a troll call in last night that was speaking Spanish, didn't know who he was talking to, and got cursed out. And I said, the only Spanish I can remember, I can order another beer, I can ask where's the bathroom, and I know the rest is stuff to start a fight with. So dishwasher Spanish is what they called it in Florida where I picked it up. But yeah, I can't imagine taking triple intensive anything. But yeah, I got like a whole year's worth of Spanish over summer. And like,
wow.
Yeah. Glorious tales of a misspent youth. Well, again, Heather, thank you for joining us today. We are just about out of time. Going to clear out of here so the next crew can come in and do their thing. Everybody tune into that show. I'm not sure who's following me today. We go ahead and bring in Dezombified. They can let us know who's coming on. Say hi to Heather in the chat here. Getting the stereo. Come on in, folks.
Hey, Steve. Hi, everybody. Welcome all of you guys. Thank you for being here and showing up. I want to give a special shout out to Yankees Outdoors Adventure. I know he is lurking somewhere around there in the chat. Hi to the new people. Angelica Crystal, thank you for being here. Hopefully you will catch our show tonight.
Shout out to my parole officer. I want to give a big up to my parole officer.
So is there not a show after mine today, folks?
I'm Kenny Dreadful. Thank you for being here with Steve and Heather. Really appreciate that on the morning Horde Rush.
And I'm Miss Stereo, by the way. Thank you all. We are going to be hosting tonight, but no, I don't think we have anybody else coming up after you, Steve. We're just gonna
midday show today.
No, not today. We need
I'm
a midday
not used to
now.
going on at this time, so my head's still kind of fuzzy this morning. But thanks for that. We'll see tonight then. And thanks to everybody for showing up in the chat. A huge thank you to my guest, Heather Mosier. She's just a fascinating individual. Check out that log. We'll have her back as soon as we can con her into coming back on again. And I appreciate her for coming in early this morning. I originally told her it'd be 1 p.m. her time, and then she was able to get here early when the time changed. So appreciate you doing that. I'm not looking forward to just sitting here talking to myself at 6 a.m., but it worked out great. Thank you for being so accommodating and so understanding. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Everybody in the chat, thank you for spending part of your day with us. I love you, each and every one. Mwah. And happy morning, day, afternoon, evening, whatever it is, wherever you are.
Okay.
I'm Steve Stockton, and I am out of here. Going to play us out with a Z Horde anthem. Everybody rise.
Absolutely, we will. But really quick, that EVP that Angelica says she heard, as well as I think it was... Who else was it that said they heard the EVP during the live stream?
Unicorp's Tales. Tanya said she heard it.
Okay, so I'm gonna be checking this out after the stream later on today, and I'm gonna see if I can find it. And when I find it, I'll try and clean it up and play it tonight. So be on the lookout for that.
Awesome. Looking forward to that. I'm gonna go back and see if I can hear it too.
Okay. Well, you guys have a good night, and I see you later. I mean, have a good rest of your hump day. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thanks again.
This one goes out to all you Dezomba friends, the Z Horde. We want you to know just how much we love you.
Shout out to Ophelia Noctis, creepy clown girl, dark carnival got this. A local nightmare, it's so amazing. Puerto Rican Jose's entertaining. Dark waters, dog man is twisted. Asia 1994, really gifted. Dustin Fleming's stronger than the rock. Hellfire's out here making everything hot. Yeah, Braden 23 of I is a G. We're kryptonites down, kid, he's family. Now there are times when we all need gore. Danny Martians in the house, never know what's in store. Mandy Mortem is legit and a queen. Gothic Rose enchanting, she's on the scene. 13 past midnight, things that go bump in the night. Gory B, horror addicts are out of sight. Big ups to the late horror show. Emily's Adventures in Horrorland, here we go. And you know we gotta keep them dice rolling. MD Who Entertainment, she's been chosen. Give it up for the evil outcast. Swedish mom is dope, yo, you know she got class. So if you get bad vibes from storytelling, then these monsters in my mind will leave you yelling. You see, we all about hearing stranger stories on the creeps. So sweet, she really got love for me. Penny tails up, narrating for the win. Queenie Tade amazing, but real dark and grim. The Mentor Centaurs, Flickathon, Swamp Dwellers. Scolded 22, they be our fellas. Anime Tome, Time He Lives, a fantastic panic deep. Paranormal history, great graphics. What's up, Bullet Greedier? I meant CP. I'm gonna get so bent with nefarious TV. Slumberies, Art of Morbid, Cap 7, truly salmon. And we can never forget about Karen. 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 Karen.
Hello, hello, everybody. Thank you for stopping in and catching the last little bit of our show, Panic D Paranormal History. Thank you for being here, lovies. You know we love you, Sean and Marianne. You guys are great. Yes, you guys are fabulous. Thank you for being here. Yankee, I know that you're lurking somewhere. So thank you for being here too. The Humor Raptor, Pumpkin Queen, Journey Through the Gate, Paranormal, Heather Moser, thank you for being here today. Angelica Crystal, thank you for stopping by as well. Let's see. Happy Trails Hiking, thank you for being here as well. You guys rock. Pet Fox Arts, girl, you rock. We love you. 13 past midnight, thank you for hosting this morning. Thank you, Steve, for hosting this Morning Rush show, the Horde Morning Rush. That is awesome. Let's keep looking to see who else showed up today, right? Hellfire Narrations, Margbot, Philianoctis. Michael Anchors Music Official, thank you for being here as well. Unicorn's Tales, thank you also for being here. We love you. You guys are great. Let's see here. Journey Through the Gate, Paranormal. Let's see, I don't think I missed anybody, but if I did, guys, if I missed anybody, I'm so sorry. And thank you for being here. And we will catch you on the next one, right, guys? As always, Dezombified friends, watch your six.